We're live, and it is 1 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and call the Real Property Committee meeting to order. It is 1 o'clock. It's June 10th. We are meeting via Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic. All committee members are present, including the administration. I'd like to acknowledge that the press and public have been duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the previous meeting's minutes of May 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Randy Bell, seconded by Kevin Popson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Then we have citizens' comments. We had everybody hopefully was emailed the citizens' comments ahead of time, and that'll be made part of the record. That was one of the questions in citizens' comments, Desiree, is are we making sure that those are attached, or I just wanted to double check?
Yes, they will be attached to the minutes, but you all may recall that the minutes are approved at the following meeting.
Yes,
So they're only posted after they're approved.
Okay.
So once approved, we'll attach all of the comments that were received for each particular meeting.
Perfect. Then we have under next item, the marina tenants comments. And I know we did get an email earlier from one of the marina tenants. I don't know if you want to make that part of the record, or you want to read that, or it doesn't matter. I mean, we can check in or that, or.
Are you sure you want me to read it?
I don't have it in front of me. Go ahead, Desiree. I can't.
Oh, no, that's not it. He is the owner of titling Is My Marina Tenant Report Tied While Keeping Our Jet Ski Floating. Number 2, we ask modifications until after our season is over. We are concerned about how long any modification once the construction has started. Delays once it begins cannot be as a week from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Like all businesses, we have experienced a large financial loss due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We will never make up for lost days of operation. Regarding parking and the proposed restaurant with the restaurant partners, and should be happy to give our parking area in the evening after. Regarding any potential future feel that our current location is the safest area to be for a business like Tidal Wave. Moving us to an area closer to the mouth of Morgan Creek, this risks dramatically.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on. Business update, the Marina Dock permitting and dock rehabilitation project. I know we've had another failure down there a little bit. So, want to give us an update where we're at with that?
Yes, sir, of course. The city has received both the OCRM and the Army Corps of Engineers permit for the planned improvements to the marina docks. ATM is performing the final review of the technical specifications and the design, which should be completed by next week. They have also submitted a draft of the request for bids document that would be issued in order to procure a contractor to do the work. And this process would obviously start after the new fiscal year begins and after council has approved the FY21 budget, which includes the financing for this project. We're currently working on the contract documents, which would be part of the RFP packet that would be distributed. And therefore, the city would be ready to go out for bid as soon as the budget ratification happens, and construction would be able to begin after Labor Day. The project is estimated to take about 5 to 6 months for completion. That's the update for the Marina Dock Rehabilitation Project. I'll provide now an update on the water sports dock. The city received the permit from OCRM for the work for this dock, and it is now under review by the Army Corps of Engineers. It is estimated that it'll take them about a month or 2 to issue the permit. Could be long, could be shorter. We really don't know. We have been advised by the Corps that the city must wait until the permit is issued in order to take action to fix the encroachment issue on the floating dock that's encroaching on the 125-foot setback line. The floating dock encroaches about 1.7 feet on the west end side of the dock and about 3.2 feet on the east side of the dock. We had been developing some conceptual ideas with some dock contractors.
No, Randy had a question.
Yeah, just a question, Desiree.
Yeah.
Back to Michael Femm's comments. We're not under any time mandate that we're aware of to get this done, right?
No, so, my concern is making sure that we fix those feet that are encroaching from our floating dock. And that is what we're working on. But we had been advised that we shouldn't do anything, even that short-term ish to address the feet,
But to Michael's request, there's nothing compelling us to do it during their season.
Correct, no.
Okay.
And because we kind of had a contractor go down there and look at it. I know we had, but now really we can't move forward with any of repairing any of that until we get permit in hand, basically is what OCR I'm saying.
The Corps, yes, that is correct.
Yes. Yeah.
They're saying that we shouldn't do anything until we get the final permit. It'll be about 2 months. It could be more before we get the permit. And by that time, the season will be over. And I think that the city would be in a position to do that after September.
So we can pretty much emphatically state we're not going to do this during their season.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I recognize that would be disruptive. But we're certainly starting the conversation. We don't want to start the conversation about what are the most efficient options on how to address that encroachment and move it out of the setback line until September. So we're kind of working ahead and understanding what options we have, the cost implications of that, so that the floating dock could be pushed back enough to be out of that, setback, whether it's literally cutting a piece of that dock or reframing the pile guides to allow the floating dock to be kind of pushed back without, making any changes to the pilings.
Okay. Perfect. Did you have any more in that?
No, that is my update.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that?
No, just the one. That's all.
Okay. Kevin, you're good?
We have, I would say if I may, we have been asked about whether or not the Corps, you all know that the Corps sent us a letter asking that the jet dock structure that was attached to the outside of that floating dock be removed. Last summer, the tenant has been instructed to move it out of the way. We have also been asked about whether or not the Corps will, if we should expect any restrictions on the ability for the tenant or any other tenant or any other user to attach or tie boats to the outside of that floating dock. And that question has been submitted to the Corps, and they have submitted it to their navigation office for an official response.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like valuable information to have. So, update on Marina Restaurant lease proposal. Is the next item on the agenda?
Yeah, I'm adding John Chalfie to the meeting, and he's connecting now. There was a request from the IOP Families Group to present to you all the proposal, and we shared with them the Zoom link information, and they have not joined. So I'm not sure, we shared with you all the counter proposal that we received from the IOP Families Group, and historically we have those discussions, discussions on contractual arrangements during executive session. So I don't know if John would have an update for the public meeting, and maybe we could wait until the end of the meeting to go into executive session and discuss and receive legal advice. Chair, I will defer to you on how you want to.
Desiree, I just texted John Bushnell and asked him if he was joining since it was his request. And he says he does not have the link.
So I'll speak to that. So hi, everyone. I'm sorry for being late. I had issues.
John, I honestly, I made the request that they be allowed to discuss this with this committee. And it was my understanding that they were going to discuss, and they're asking for the link. So I'm going to ask.
Ron sent the link to them this morning.
I'm literally real time with him right now because he sent me a text asking that we need the link. So
Do we have?
I've misunderstood. I thought
Obviously,
that the committee was going to discuss talking to them about it in executive session. So if I was supposed to
we
forward them a
probably
link
will. The
or-
intent was not to address questions in this meeting, but the intention was to allow them an opportunity to publicly speak to the issues in this committee meeting.
correct. Outside of any contractual matters, outside of any.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm resending it right now to Ron so that he can share the link again.
I will text him that it's being sent.
Because
You-
it's the
would you-
same
would-
number that we dialed
Correct.
in.
Correct.
Yeah, it should be.
So we could just text
While
him that.
we wait until we make sure that he receives it, and do you want me to provide an update on the public safety building rehabilitation project?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Please.
Am I in mute? No, okay. Okay, so for the public safety building project, we are on budget and ahead of schedule without moving forward with the large portico on the front of the building, which was decided by council last month. We are tracking to be completed much sooner than we expected. We're currently showing completed by November of this year. This, of course, will be weather permitting. The work outside is continuing to move around to the front of the building, and waterproofing is crossing over onto the fire department side. The contractor is almost complete with the hardy install on the police station side, and a painting is also following right behind on the exterior. It looks absolutely beautiful from the outside. On the interior, the second floor of the fire department side, the ceilings are being installed, the walls have been painted, and demo has started on the third floor, along with the overhead installation of the ductwork. On the interior side of the police side, the walls are being prepped for paint and the light fixtures have been replaced, and also new doors and hardware are being installed this week. The Sally board, the fire sprinkler lines, and the electrical conduit and wiring have been replaced, and the new enclosure around the elevator has been built, and all the interior walls of the lobby has been waterproofed, insulated, and hardy installed. The apparatus bay, the dividing walls have started being waterproofed last week, and we should be on the path for receiving and installing insulation. So good news. I've always said we're on budget and ahead of schedule. We're obviously recognize that this fall it's going to be could be an active season. So we're hoping for the best and hoping that we can get that project wrapped up before the end of the year.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Two quick questions. One, how do we settle on the portico design or decision?
So they are working, the decision was made to use the $47,000 that were already included in the original scope of the budget for a simpler design. The architects are working on a couple of design options for a simpler portico, not the two-story one that was that would be $167,000 additional. And we actually have our weekly meetings on Thursdays at 1. So our hope was to review some of those plans tomorrow, and we can share those with council for some feedback. And I also wanted to say we have been doing tours for folks on council that are interested in seeing the improvements and seeing the work up front. So if any of you are interested in going over there, let me know and I can set it up.
Quick question.
Yep. Go ahead, Randy.
Have we ever considered public participation? I mean, I'm sure once we look at the design, there's going to be people that go, wow, $160,000 extra, net 120 if we're going to spend the 47 anyway. Have we ever done, and Ryan, you may know the answer to this, in prior years, public-private participation to have we really do want, and given an opportunity for the public to weigh in and perhaps participate.
Mm,
Or is there a reason why we could not?
for like design or for?
No, I'm talking about the funding. You know,
No, anytime there's anytime we can do a public-private type.
can Desiree, can we look into that as a potential option? I mean, it may be, once we have some public input on this, that people are, we're trying to squeeze the dollars as best we can, which I think is our job, but that doesn't mean that the public may not want to participate and have the bill look exactly like they'd like to look for posterity.
I mean,
Randy, I like the idea. I'm just worried, or I think they're worried about the timeline of getting something.
Yeah, that's valid. I don't disagree.
We had a deadline of June 1st to decide on one way or the other, and that's why it was presented to council at the.
Kevin, I thought you'd throw the money in real quick. That's what I was getting at.
Oh, absolutely. I'm about 119,000 short. And I had one other question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Desiree, how about the insight reports? There are third-party inspector. Are we getting those? Is somebody looking at them, or are they?
Yeah.
Is everything going, right by their book?
Yeah, we are receiving weekly reports from them. They're being reviewed by Douglas and the Trident team and myself, and they participate in our weekly meetings on Thursdays as well. So we're in constant communication with them. They're in constant communication with the Trident team, scheduling what time they should be in the building and what are some of the things that they need to look at. We also, you may recall, we also entered into an agreement with them for the special inspections, Chapter 17 special inspections. So they're also working on those for us. But it's going well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's the end of that. We'll go back up to, we're back here. The update on Marina Restaurant lease proposal. So, and now we have John Bushnell just joined us. Welcome. Hey,
John.
So we're going to go ahead and I'm not sure, Randy, I wasn't sure if you wanted, and we wanted to do this in public. I wasn't sure if John had any questions or if you wanted to do any type of.
Ryan, just to add, we all know John. He's an Island resident, and John had requested, specifically asked, how would I be able to address full council, or the real property committee? I said, make a request if you have items that you wish to discuss. I said, obviously contractual, legal issues and others that we would go into executive session. But if there's, position statements, updates, the public is constantly asking where we're at on this. And almost all of our business has been conducted in executive session. And I thought it's time. I mean, it's June to at least share what we can share and have the prospective tenants discuss publicly what they wish to discuss.
So let's do this real quick, and then we'll go through. And John, give us a little update on, I guess, as much in depth as you want to. When we started working with you in the families group, what you have jumped into, what you have been, the hoops, let's say, that you've had to jump through in order to figure out your due diligence on this building. And so I know there's been a lot of work done down there with both structurally and architecturally. I don't know if you want to give us a little update on that.
Certainly. So I think when we first started this discussion in December of 2019, that was before the pandemic. So obviously the world, and especially the restaurant world, has changed dramatically in the last 5 months. But during that time, we had the opportunity to hire architects, structural engineers, and contractors to evaluate the building and potential redesigns and repositioning of the building. So we have preliminary plans and preliminary cost estimates and budgets. Because of the pandemic, though, we are preparing multiple options in terms of social distancing and how to operate a restaurant safely by allowing for 50% occupancy or outdoor seating, et cetera. So we do have different options available to us for when we open, if social distancing is still the norm. With that, we do have some questions. Really, it comes down to two questions. One is, what is the process or next steps in terms of the committee, in terms of how it goes from here? And then the second question is, we're still a little bit unclear on the parking. It seems to be vague and ambiguous as to where our employees park and at what time. So those are the two questions that we would like to discuss at some point. I'm not sure if we talk with John Chalfie, to the broker representing the island, or how that process works. So that's what we're asking for, just a little bit of clarity on those 2 points at some point in the future.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Kevin, Randy, you got any questions, or Desiree?
No, I think I'm certainly aware of the issues, so I'm presuming we all are.
Yeah, and a lot of those discussions and questions, obviously, are going to take place in executive session when we do discuss contractual matters on the lease and the negotiations for that as well. But Desiree, do you want to have anything to add, or good?
I do have things
Okay.
to add, but I think they would be more appropriate during executive session.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Is there a need for John Bushnell to come back to us in executive session?
Certainly, if it is the will of the committee to hear and have some conversations with Mr. Bushnell, we can share the separate executive session link with him and invite him to the executive session conversation.
Does that sound good, John?
Sounds good. And
John Bushnell, Ron Hanna will send you the separate link to the executive session. And what we typically do is we log out of this one, join the other link so that the live streaming may continue. So what we'll do is notify you once the committee is ready to go into executive session, and give you that heads up so you may join us on the other side.
thank you.
You have any other questions, John? Are you good?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank-
Okay, perfect. Oh, wait a second, Julia?
Julie?
I just want to make a point. If we're going back into executive session to discuss contractual relations or contractual negotiations with John, that's great, but I'm not going to be able to give legal advice with John in the room with us for executive session if that does come up. Just
Correct.
Yep, we're aware.
Thank you, Julia.
thanks.
Let's go on to next portion of our agenda under old
Can I
business.
interrupt real quick before we move on, Ryan? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot
Will
about
there
that.
be a portion of executive session that we can speak with Julia's advice?
Yes, we will.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good. That was all. That was it.
Good.
Thank you.
Update on Greenbelt program application, Desiree?
Yes, we are excited about this project. You all recall that this was recommended to council late last year for the city to pursue funding from the Greenbelt program to construct an ADA compliant beach walkover and observation deck at 42nd Avenue. Before I go on, let me share my screen so that you all can see the new timeline. Okay. Here we go. Can you see the timeline?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you all recall that we had that council approved us pursuing those funds or late last year. We submitted an application early January this year. We were supposed to present our proposal and proposed project to the Greenville Advisory Subcommittee back in March, but we all know that timeline changed dramatically due to COVID-19. So we presented today to them, and they have approved the project and made a recommendation to the full advisory committee from the Greenbelt program. We have not received an updated timeline yet as of what happens next, but if we're pushing everything a month from today, we should be getting Charleston County final approval by August. It could be later, but this is moving forward, and I just wanted to give you all an update since we presented today.
Perfect. Interesting.
Okay, how
So
do I?
what does that mean that it goes to the full committee? Then they'll have,
So the Greenbelt Program Advisory Program has a subcommittee that meets and conducts site visits, hears directly from the applicant. They make a recommendation to the full Greenbelt Board. They make a full final recommendation to the Finance Committee, and then the Finance Committee from Charleston County then presents to the full County Council. Those funds are allocated for the City of Isle of Palms, and as long as the projects are eligible under that criteria, we shouldn't have any issues of having those funds being
So-
free.
Ryan, if I may,
oh,
I'm trying to figure out, Desiree, how do we get that? Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I'm the only one getting questions on this. I happen to know pretty much every resident along that stretch there personally. And the questions are starting to pour in, and John Bushell happens to be one of those residents. And they're kind of separating this into two pieces. And because we don't have any design to share with anybody about what this means, there is a lot of resident concern along that stretch as to what we mean by an observation deck. And the concern, all that parking is resident only parking. And the answers that I've provided are, I believe it was me that made specific requests that we have additional handicap parking spaces there because there's only 2 places there. And the intent was to provide an emergency access, much like the woodwork that we have down at Front Beach, where our emergency personnel can get down to the beach, and to provide the ADA compliance to allow folks with handicaps to get closer to the beach. Then there's a discussion of an observation deck. There is concern that I'd be remiss to not mention, that people are concerned that this now becomes more of an attraction than the original intended purpose. And I think it's something that we should think about as we go forward with design.
So when we talk about the design, we're looking at something very similar to what we have in 21st Avenue. So it's not, a massive observation deck, just maybe, additional space on both sides with maybe 1 or 2 benches.
Yeah, it may be wording, Desiree, more than.
Right. And then I think that's what it is. It's the wording of it. It kind of sounds, it's probably not
Grandiose.
Yes. It's basically,
it does.
it's basically where those who are utilizing it via ADA or wheelchair can pull off to the side and then sit there and observe, because it may be difficult. Obviously it'd be difficult if they're not having sand chairs or sand, get into the sand, that they can access those areas. So just
Correct. There are folks that can't, have difficulty walking on the soft sand, so they still want to be closer to the beach, be closer to the water, so they would be able to do that there. The plan is not to do. The plan is for an 8-foot wide boardwalk, so we would maintain the existing emergency access, emergency vehicle access to the beach, but that right of way is wide enough that it'll support the existing path that we currently have with Moby Mat, and then to the side we'd have this boardwalk, ADA boardwalk.
Okay.
That's all I have.
excellent. Where we at here? New business. The next item is new business discussion of next steps related to commercial use of the dock currently leased to Tidal Wave. As right now, until we get permits in hand to make any modifications to that thing, I don't know what else we're going to end up doing there. I know a lot of our residents during our forums wanted to see more public access to that, and so we need to. Oops, a second here. I'm glitching out. I'm gonna hook up my data cable. If anybody, Kevin, you want to touch on this? I'm on Wi-Fi right now, and it's kind of sporadic.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, thanks. And Randy, I'm the one that asked for this to be put on the agenda. And the reason is, as we know, Tidal Wave lease was not renewed for the 5-year option. Therefore, they're done by the end of September. When this occurs, obviously their lease money goes away. We've already lost the restaurant lease monies, and who knows when those will be coming in. We've had the workshops, Ways and Means, about how to raise revenues, and come October 1st, we're going to start losing these revenues. So my concern is the revenues and loss of these lease monies. So I just wanted to throw out the possibility for discussion of possibly talking about entering into a new lease with Tidal Wave for a 2-year period at rate and terms that better benefit the city. They've been a longtime good tenant, service to our residents, the residents, visitors, the visitors to the island. And as a lot of people probably don't know, they're a lot of the first time on the scene. And I think I've heard over 80 rescues pulling people out of the water. So they've always provided a good service. And in these 2 years ahead, we can hopefully wrap up the deal with the restaurant, fix the docks, and with keeping Tidal Wave, we've got these revenues coming in. And then along the way, we can start the process for an RFP for a more better or long-term deal. I'm just kind of throwing this out since I would hate to lose another rent-paying tenant. So just kind of wanted to throw it out for discussion and see where it may go.
Desiree? So I always get saddled with social media that, it's this hate Tidal Wave campaign. So I want to be clear again. 2 years ago, we had the discussion of, we had an expiring restaurant lease as well. We have, and we'll discuss more in executive session, we have a huge parking issue with the marina because of the awful lease that we're saddled with until 2045. And I had maintained, and I still maintain, until we know what we're doing with the restaurant, this council's hands are tied. There is only, reconfigured 52 parking places that are not under marina management lease control. And the other properties that are available, obviously, is from Waterway to the terminus of the Intracoastal and the land occupied by Tidal Wave. So, part of what we're trying to get at is what are our options with the marina? As for revenue, it was Mr. Fenn's own request to Desiree, our margin on that operation is $3,400 per year. So we're not looking at a situation, and I'm talking about net of expenses and not including depreciation and capital expenditures. So from a financial perspective, it does not saddle us. And I've said, over and over again, if there is to be a water sports company down there, it should be Tidal Wave. They have a history, they've been there for a long time. My only contention here in this discussion is we have a city-owned dock that the residents have asked through the Marina Forum that we listen to their concerns, and the ranked concerns, first two, Desiree, please correct me if I'm wrong, were a restaurant, highly, highly number one on the list. And the second one was public access. And I think, all these discussions need to be deferred. And I don't know when the mayor plans on having a meeting regarding the Marina Forum, but we need to have, good open dialogue about the future of the marina, because there is no circumstance that we're ever going to make money before 2045. And at this point, it's, what's the residential return on investment that we have? Ryan, hopefully you heard that. I don't know.
I got you. Yeah, I had to look up. But Desiree, part of that was part of the questionnaire. One of the citizens' comments on that was the when we expect to make that presentation on all the data information that you pulled together.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's applicable now if you want to discuss that.
Mm-hmm.
I know COVID slowed us down on that, but what is the plan for that?
Well, you may recall that we presented the preliminary numbers and the preliminary categorization of those, of all the input to real property back in March. And it was in mid-March when everything closed. All normal operations were halted until about, a couple weeks ago. So as we continue to pick up where we left off back in March, when, all of our lives were changed without any with any plan. Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking that would be presented to City Council next. Okay. Those results, the reason why they were preliminary, we wanted to go back and review it and just make sure that everything was tight, and it is. And I believe they should be online. If they're not, they will be. And shared with all council again to kind of ignite that conversation one more time. I know that the community is very eager to hear council decide about the next steps for the use of that dock and other places around on the marina. So it was just a matter of time. It was planned for March, and obviously a pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I just want to ask Randy, just help me understand, since I'm the newbie. You were relating the tidal wave decision, if any, with doing the restaurant first. Can you, again, being the newbie, I just kind of want
no problem.
to understand what was discussed, and because I understand that Tidal Wave has their little spots, whatever that is, 10, 12, 8 or whatever that they have. The restaurant will have theirs, and then we find some employee parking. So I'm just trying to figure out, again, what was discussed, tying them together, I guess.
Yeah. So, and Desiree, please jump in, or John Chalfie. So the only under lease control for Morgan Creek Grill was 35 parking places. It's the paved parking area. The reconfiguration of that moved it to 52. And thank you, Kevin, for involving people to get that done. The balance of it is lease control under Marina Joint Ventures for the shared parking area, which is the yellow area in the mapping. And then there are 10 parking places that were leased to Tidal Wave, right? So that other area in the corner, and Desiree, this is where you please feel free to jump in. And looking at reconfiguration of that would provide potentially an additional roughly 20 parking places. I think the question in front of the families group right now, and I still have not heard an answer, and I don't think anyone has, is what is the under lease control number of parking places required to operate a financially successful restaurant and debt finance whatever amount of money they need to put into the building, right? So we do need an answer to that. The balance of the marina, it's been well discussed that this lease, and it's available to the public online to view, gives the control of that parking lot as it's been interpreted to Marina Joint Ventures. And all I've said, and I still have the question of the families group, how many parking places under firm lease control in order to go to a bank and finance what you intend to finance off a restaurant do you need? And is there an agreement that can be reached beyond that, probably with Marina Joint Ventures, that would suffice and enable you to move forward with a restaurant? And frankly, until we have those answers, I've maintained when I was chairing this committee that those answers are paramount, because the number one priority for the community, the number one revenue generating item down there, apart from the marina operation, is a viable restaurant, both because it attracts people to come here and visit, and it's utilized highly by the residents. Hopefully, Kevin, that's, there's no hidden agenda here. It's
No.
it is what it is. We've all got questions on this right now, and I think we're all pushing hard to figure out how to get a restaurant down there.
Yes.
No doubt about it. And it was just a question for a little bit of history.
No, thank you.
And also just to throw out with the forum as well, there were a lot of people that wanted Tidal Wave to stay. So we did get a lot of good comments from that as well. Listen, I'm just throwing this out there because I don't want to lose any more income. We need the income, and that was the whole reason by me bringing this up. And maybe it's a way of just keeping a good tenant and keeping some money coming in. Better terms for the city, not existing, but better terms for the city. Let them maintain the dock. Increase the fees. We do a linear footage. Comp. However we do it, but it was my concern, and that's why I threw it out.
And I agree. Any way that we can try to find ways to make revenue or increase revenue, especially in this time, now that we've seen, just starting to see some decrease in revenues, But I do agree with, both of you and with you, Randy, the fact that we need to take this information to full council from the forum, the information from the forum. And like I said, at that time, we can discuss, which direction the council wants to go and digest all the information, decide which way the council in general wants to go with, that area, and not only with the tidal wave, but with the restaurant and the parking and what we want that side of the arena to be envisioned to look like. There's a lot of unanswered questions that need to be answered, and some of them, a lot of that's going to have to be done in the executive sessions because it's contractually and lease obligated. So.
Well, and we've been hit with the COVID and the connector and, all the curfews and all this. And so it's nice to start back to regular committee meetings and council meetings. And that's why I at least wanted to throw this out to start discussion. So whether it's this or the forum, let's keep moving forward and try to get some decision made somehow, some way.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah.
2 cents.
Yep. Without a problem. We definitely need to have discussion about it and figure out which way we need to go on it. Anybody else? Around? Nothing. Wow, that's the end of our meeting, except for executive.
Yeah.
It's not 3 hours yet. What are we going to do for the next 2 hours?
Chair, what we'll do now is Ron will stay as host of this meeting and continue with the live streaming. And we will log out of this meeting, join the next one. And
one question before you do that, Desiree, it's of Ryan. Ryan, do we intend to keep the July 8th date as on the agenda, given it's following the July 4th weekend? And really a question for Desiree and yourself.
Desiree, yeah, I may or may not be in town as well, so I'll figure that. Yeah. Do you want to do it before the July 4th, or do you want to?
I'm good either way, Ryan. I just think, given it's July 4th weekend, recognizing that's a little hectic.
Yeah, I'm good either way.
Whichever
way we go.
I'll go ahead and send a couple options to the group,
okay,
and we can nail it and share it in the calendar once it's confirmed.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's everybody go ahead and you got the information to go into executive session. Go ahead and log out. And so I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session for discussion of contractual matters with.
I will make a motion to go into executive session for a discussion of contractual matters related to the family script.
And legal advice?
And legal advice.
Okay.
I know that by now.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're going, it was a motion made by Randy Bell, seconded by Kevin Popson. Motion passed unanimously, and we're going into executive session at 1:45.
And Nicole has a question.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just that in the event that you guys, and I'll get the second half of whatever you decide on recording because I've got planning at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So I may or
Nicole,
may
I
not-
will. Nicole, I'll record any if they take any action, and I'll
I
record
hope
this.
we're not in this meeting until 3 o'clock.
I
No,
know,
we're
I
not.
think you're not either, but just to let you know, if I don't show back up, it's because I'm somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, here we go.